everyone. Today we are looking at FatTok specifically. So I was going back and forth between several of the different hashtags: fat acceptance, fat liberation, body positivity, which body positivity I'm less likely to do just because there are some people that use it for something other than fat propaganda. But ultimately I decided on the Fatphobia hashtag. And we're just going to kind of click on them, scroll through. I'm not necessarily going to show you all of them, but I will show you ones that are at least interesting. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys an update on my weight loss. So here we go.
I think as a society we have progressed beyond the need to use fat as an insult. It's a fucking adjective. I don't know what people expect the reaction to be when you call someone fat. Like they say it like they're driving a spear through your fucking heart. You're fat. Yes? Congratulations on having eyeballs, bitch. I was in this body before you saw it. What do you think I'm looking at, idiot? No other adjective is treated that way. If I came up to you and said you're tall, you wouldn't want to sock me in the face. I think
So literally other adjectives are used as insults. You say, if you go up and say you're tall, you don't take it as an insult. No, but there are many people that if you go up and say you're short, they will take it as an insult. It's just a matter of whether you are saying something that doesn't align with their perception or their desired body. Also, tone matters a lot. So let's not pretend that fat is the only thing ever. Even in certain places, if you go up to a skinny person and be like, man, you're stick thin, no, if it's a woman, no boobs, no ass, they're gonna take offense to that most of the time, I think. So let's not pretend that fat is the only word that is an adjective and used as an insult. Stupid's used as an insult too. And there can be a whole, let's go, oh man, dumb phobia. How about that? Protect the dumb bitches. Sorry. The world is dumb phobic, is stupid phobic. We need to idiot phobic? I don't know. We need to come up with something because to me, it just lines up really well with this. Society expects you to know how to read. That's dumb phobic. Or something like that. But let's not pretend that fat is the only adjective that's used as an insult, okay? Let's not. Now, if you don't view it as an insult, that's fine. I've had people say you're weird in this kind of really negative aspect, because I do have quirks that I think are irritating to some people, in particular with me wanting certain things to happen in a certain order. I don't have OCD or anything. I just am a bit particular. And they're like, you're weird. And I'm like, yes, I am, but you're gonna do it my way. Because that's how things are working with me right now. You don't have to view it as an insult if you don't want to. And if you're looking to just kind of end their interaction with you, that's a fine way to deal with it. But let's not pretend that fat is the only thing that's ever used as an insult when describing physical appearance.
Go ahead and step on the scale. Sure, I'm just gonna step on it backwards, and please don't tell me the number. I have an eating disorder and that's what my therapist recommends. Sure, no problem. I'll just leave this here for the doctor. Great. Thanks. Kind of defeated the purpose of weighing backwards. Good to see you again. Go ahead and step on the scale. Hey, just a reminder, if you could just weigh me backwards and then not write it down on the paper you leave right by me, that would be great. All right, I see the nurse took all your vitals. Oh, yeah, it looks like your weight has changed. Yeah, I weigh backwards. I have an eating disorder and asked her not to write the weight down where I could see. So you don't want to know, even if it's good news? No, I don't want to know. Even if it's good news. No. Go ahead.
Okay, first thing is that the nurse has to record your weight. That's what that paperwork is fucking for. She has to record that weight. It has to be on the paper. If she's like, I'm just gonna leave this here for the doctor, Maybe she did leave it face side up. You don't have to look at the number, just flip it over. It's not that fucking hard. Like, and actually, I don't know of any doctor's office that, like, leaves the paperwork for the doctor to see. They don't just, like, even, in my experience, they don't just leave the paperwork there. It goes in, like, this little file thing right outside the door that the doctor can take before they go in. And I've never had a doctor where you're like, you request something and they push it anyway. I find it interesting, like, is this supposed to be a new doctor? Because if you say you have a history of an eating disorder, surely you saw a doctor for that. Was it a different doctor? Was it in a different space? I mean, if you're like, this is happening every time, and you're having to explain that you have an eating disorder, I don't know of any doctor's office that doesn't have that noted somewhere. I'm calling bullshit on the doctor portion, and the nurse portion, to a certain, I'm unsure, because it could just be different at different doctor's offices, so fine. But if they leave the paper there, just fucking turn the paper over if you don't want to see it. It's not that hard. If you can go up to it, look away, make sure you don't see it, flip the paper over. Alright, I'm pretty sure they won't just hand you the paperwork if it's meant for the doctor. Like, I don't know. I'm calling bullshit on a couple things with that.
I have a condition called lipedema. It's a rarely diagnosed fibrotic fat disorder that grows the legs and sometimes the arms really big. Lipedema fat isn't losable, so you can't diet or exercise it away. Most people have seen lipedema, but they don't know it. 11% of all people assigned female at birth are said to have it. Very few people assigned male at birth have lipedema. It's often dismissed as obesity and ignored due to medical fat phobia. Here I am putting on arm compression to help reduce swelling and hopefully slow the growth of my arms. I have a condition.
Did she say 11%? I gotta watch this again.
Called lipedema. It's a rarely diagnosed fibrotic fat disorder that grows the legs and sometimes the arms really big. Lipedema fat isn't losable, so you can't diet or exercise it away. Most people have seen lipedema, but they don't know it. 11% of all people assigned female at birth are said to have it.
11%. I gotta look this. I gotta look this up. That causes excess fat to accumulate in the lower parts of the body. It most often involves buttocks, thighs, calves, upper arms can also be affected. This condition does not affect hands or feet. Okay. Oh, up to 11%. I'm surprised. When fat is distributed in an irregular way, usually buttocks, legs, okay, can cause pain. Can be mistaken for regular obesity or lymphedema. So it does say, I mean, she says you can't diet or exercise it away, and to a certain extent that's true, but it does say exercise can help reduce the fluid buildup, boost mobility, and maintain or improve how well your legs work. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not going to take it away, but it does, exercise is still a benefit for this condition. And I'm not saying she doesn't do that, but I don't know. It says up to 11% may affect up to 11% of women. It depends. It happens when fat is distributed in an irregular way. There's something about this 11% that I'm just finding really hard to believe. But whatever, we're going to just move on. But I would like to note that yes, compression helps, but so does exercise. Like, let's not pretend that exercise still doesn't help the situation.
Fat shaming and skinny shaming are the same.
Actually, no, they're not. Fat people are denied jobs, proper medical care, health insurance, they're paid less, they don't have equal access.
Okay, so we're gonna go back and take this one bit at a time.
Fat shaming and skinny shaming are the same.
Actually, no, they're not. Fat people are denied jobs.
Okay, curious, where are these fat people denied jobs? A lot of times, I've seen plenty of fat people working. So where are they denied jobs? Now, I understand that perhaps fat people are excluded from jobs in, say, the fashion industry, regardless of what their role is, because the fashion industry is very much about an aesthetic. And fat people just don't fit into that aesthetic. So okay. Otherwise, I think the only time that a fat person would necessarily be denied a job isn't purely for aesthetic reasons. Like, if you are morbidly obese and you can't do the job, like, for instance, I work with kids. You need to be able to chase after the kids. You need to be able to make sure that the kids are able to stay within a certain range so that way they stay safe. There are times when you're going to have to run after a kid, especially if it is a kid with certain barriers and has impulse control and they just fucking take off. You need to be able to catch that kid and keep them safe. Someone who is 400 pounds is not going to be able to do that. And the odd thing is that there's still, like, morbidly obese teachers and paraeducators. So it's not like that's even a deal breaker for that industry either. Or that industry, but that career path.
Less. They don't have equal access.
So they're paid less. So I'm curious if it's the same thing where with the wage gap, the gender wage gap, which from what I saw, a lot of it could be accounted for in that if you are taking the look as a whole, for the most part, now that's not to say that there's situations in which that pay discrepancy is real and biased, but on the whole, the studies focus on looking at the general employment of women versus the general employment of men, and women are more likely to work part-time and in lower paying jobs because they're more often the caregivers for any children or family members that need care. And that the unpaid labor is not taken into account for. And so they're just going based off. It's kind of like a inaccurate comparison because men on the whole won't necessarily become stay-at-home dads, but women are more likely to become stay-at-home mothers. And so if you take into account all of the women that there are, fewer of them are likely to be working full-time jobs than if you were to look at all men. I'm curious with when she says fat people are paid less, if it's a similar thing. Well, if you take all of the fat people versus all of the healthy weight people, the healthy weight people are likely to stay in jobs longer because they have a larger variety of jobs that they can actually perform. They are less likely to have to take leave for health reasons, and they're less likely to be on disability than, say, a fat person. Like, we see that with My 600-Pound Life. There's a lot of people that are on disability, and their partners are their live-in caretakers that are paid to take care of them by the state. Like, I'm curious if that's where that discrepancy comes from. It's not a matter of fat people are discriminated against and paid less. It's that if you were to compare both populations, fewer fat people work full-time positions because they are so fat. And they aren't able to.
To clothing, travel, many public spaces.
Don't have equal access to clothing or travel. I get so fucking tired of this. A lot of companies make larger sizes. No company can do the entire size range, especially when people get up to 800 pounds. Like, at that point, you might as well just wear a sheet. What difference does it make? I'm sorry, that may sound cruel, but I mean, at 800 pounds, you are massive. Like, any clothes that are made anyway would just basically be a tent. And it's not like you're going anywhere at 800 pounds. Lose some weight. And for travel, the plane has to be able to stay in the air. Like, the plane has to be able to keep a certain altitude. And yes, that may mean that you need to pay for an extra seat, because there's an average weight assumed per seat when they make the plane, and based on how much weight the plane can support. So if you are the size of 2 or 3 people, yes, you're going to need to buy an extra seat for multiple reasons. One, because it becomes unsafe if they fill those seats. 2, your fat's probably spilling over into those seats. Okay.
Even the body mass index, the way that it discriminates against women, especially women of color, it was created for and based around white men. Like fat.
The BMI thing, I'm not gonna deal with right now. It's a math equation. I forgot what it was originally designed for. What was BMI was meant to, like, rectify something specific. So the BMI was introduced in the early 19th century by a Belgian named Lambert. Many names. He was a mathematician. He wasn't a physician. So he produced the formula to give a quick and easy measure to the degree of obesity in the general population to assist with government in allocating resources. It was not necessarily meant for any particular... I mean, this is still from why BMI is bogus, but to me that actually lends great... Because it was meant to... It's not like it's a be-all, end-all, and it's not like doctors use it as a be-all, end-all. But it has shown legitimacy, and just because it originated here, I think that the use of it to determine health outcomes came later due to studies that show that those with higher BMIs deal with higher levels of mortality. I don't think the BMI is bogus. I think that it should not be the only measure of health, but I don't think it's bogus. Oh dear. I don't want it. Okay, wait. Let's go to good old Wikipedia. Yeah, so it's just a convenient rule of thumb, which is about what I thought. And don't get me wrong, there probably should be more studies looking at how BMI affects women and people of color, and maybe taking into... I would actually love to see the rate of BMI based on different countries. Because I think that having an excess body weight is definitely an issue, but I'm curious to see if it's in a place where walking tends to be more of the norm rather than in the US, especially where everything is by car. If the mortality rates differ for the BMI of those that do primarily walking and those that do primarily driving. Although chances are in those countries, BMIs in general are lower than in the US. But anyway, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Phobia is literally rooted in anti-blackness. It's rooted in racism and sexism. Skinny shaming is not. How many times have you seen marketing campaigns that are labeled, "Get fat quick"?
It's called the fucking McDonald's supersize menu bullshit. Like, no. Oh my god. How about we take a look at massive amounts of sugar being marketed to children? You want to talk about diet culture, what the fuck ever. Let's talk about obesity culture. Let's talk about the fact that highly processed, sugary, high-calorie items are marketed to children at a young age. Let's talk about food that has significantly low nutritional content is marketed to kids. Candy is put in bright colors and stuff to appeal to children because kids will eat it until they throw up. There's cereals that are marketed as breakfast food that are nothing but pure sugar marketed to children. That is obesity culture right there. That is obesity culture because you're not giving the kids a chance to develop their taste buds to natural foods because you're giving them all of this shit.
Finally add those stubborn 30 pounds. Show me where all the weight gain industries are. Show me all the damaging...
It's called McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's, Burger King, and every other fucking fast food place that there is. It's called fucking every candy that you ever see. Those are companies that profit off obesity.
Messages that say that skinny equals unworthy life or skinny...
That's actually in your little fucking fat liberation movement. I've never seen such toxicity to people of average or lower weight than in your own community.
Equals ugly. When is the last time that you've been penalized financially when an aircraft seat had to be accommodated to your smaller body?
It has to be accommodated to larger bodies because of how it's fucking designed for the average weight. If you are 600 fucking pounds, yes, you need accommodations. It does. Oh my god, these people ignore. No one can design something that will fit everybody. There is no universal design to anything. There is no universal design to anything. People have to go, everything that's made for mass amounts of people has to be made with the rule of averages. The average body size is what's used.
When is the last time you've walked into a doctor's office and after they weighed you, stopped listening to what you were actually there for and told you to just gain weight because it will fix everything?
So there's like a half-truth to that. There is a half-truth. Because I'm like bordering between overweight and obese. And I had a doctor, and it was the only doctor I ever had in my life that did this. But I went in for issues with involuntary movements. Like I could not, my arms would and legs would just like twitch and move on their own when I was trying to sleep or when I was resting. The doctor just kept telling me that I needed to lose weight and that would help somehow. Finally went to a different doctor, got a blood test done, and I was low in something. I don't remember. It was several years ago now. I don't remember where. I was low in a couple of things, and I had to take a higher quality multivitamin, and that fixed it up. But if you are going to the doctor because your ankle hurts, and the doctor recommends that you try to lose some weight, I do think that maybe some initial checking to make sure that a ligament isn't torn and that the bone isn't broken, just a quick check of that is probably warranted. But anything else, chances are what you need to do is you need to lose weight. Like, I don't think that this issue is as prevalent as they like to play it up to be, because I've had one doctor that does that. I've had several doctors that don't. They rule out a couple of things. They don't typically recommend that I lose weight unless it's like I had a joint issue or something once, and that was recommended. No, it was my back. I have like weak back muscles, and they recommended strength training in my back and losing some weight, and guess what? It fucking helped. So
Fat people endure all of that and more. Skinny people do not face employment discrimination or medical discrimination. The world was designed for you. Eat a burger is just not...
Okay, I'm sorry. I addressed all of her points and I actually forgot what the beginning of the video is. Saying, fatty lose some weight and skinny bitch eat a burger, yes, those are still the same. Even with this shit, let's pretend that all that shit that you said is, like, actual reality. When you come down to the basic one-to-one interaction, skinny shaming and fat shaming are the same. You can try to pose it as, well, you don't face systemic oppression, which neither do you, bitch, but, like, it's not, it's the same. Alright, I'm done.
I'm here because my period is just out of control. It lasts for a couple of weeks every single month, and it is excruciatingly painful, and I'm passing really massively large clots. Some women just don't handle pain very well. Have you tried losing weight? Heavier women tend to have heavier periods. It's really an incredible amount of blood. This can't be normal. You probably think it's way more than it actually is. Hi, yeah, I just wanted a second opinion. I have been having massive clots, heavy bleeding, out of control. I actually started tracking how much it was with a cup, and it's about 8 times the amount they say that you're supposed to lose every month. Can you please help me? Most of this comes down to weight loss. You should just lose some weight, and then you won't bleed as much anymore. I'm here because my...
Okay. Couple of things to address with that. The truth is that if you're a woman or you are a person that menstruates and you are heavier, yes, you are going to have heavier periods. You're going to have more cramping. That's legitimate advice from the doctor on that one. And you saying you measuring it, here's the thing. They say that you should only lose a certain amount of blood, but a lot of your period is actually uterine lining that is being cleaned out as part of this cycle that your body goes through. So just because you're measuring it doesn't mean that that's all blood. That's not, just because it's red doesn't mean that it's blood. Like, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but that's the truth. You are losing some blood, but the vast majority of what you're losing is the temporary uterine lining. Like, just, I wish that the doctor had, communicated that to you, and perhaps I'm actually not convinced that they didn't, because it just seems like they didn't say what you wanted them to say, so you just kind of tuned them out after that.
Y'all remember when people got upset that I put 3 scrambled eggs instead of 2 into my breakfast hash that I ate? And people went wild about it? Thin privilege, fat phobia, you're welcome. Y'all remember when people got upset that...
So here's the thing. Marissa, I've seen your portions. They are massive portions. Okay? They are fucking massive. It's not just about you putting 3 eggs instead of 2 into your hash browns. And did you eat all that? Because if I have 3 eggs, like, I'm having 3 eggs and, like, a piece of fruit, because 3 eggs is a lot. And if you're putting it into a hash, that means you also have potatoes, hopefully other veggies. And I've seen some people put, like, sausage and stuff in theirs. If you have that massive amount and you're eating that massive amount, it's probably as many calories as what this girl is eating for McDonald's. And here's the thing. She's like, what I ate at McDonald's today, chances are this is, like, the one time that she eats like this a month. The issue is with fat people is that they'll eat like this every day. It's not fat phobia. People just understand the difference.
Have you ever been in love?
I don't think so.
Do you want me to describe it to you?
Wah, fucking wah. I was the fat one in, I don't know if I'd call it Friends. I had a very unique situation when it comes to my peer group growing up. I won't get too far into it because I feel like I've given out enough personal information in this video. But not being able to share clothes is not fat phobia. Alright, that's just that you don't fit into your friends' clothes. Your friends should not have to buy larger clothes so that way you can share them. I'm sorry that you're too big to share them and that perhaps other friends can share with each other, but that's just the reality of the situation. That's not fat phobia. That's just, like, what exactly did they expect? And guys overlooking you. Yeah. Sorry, that's the way things are. Fat is not attractive. Making excuses not to go out, that's on you. Sentiment, you can't carry me. Yeah, okay, I'm not really understanding, like, this fucking sad-ass music. Always being the plus one. Summer sucks for a lot of people. I just want to say, summer sucks for a lot of people. Summer just sucks. If you don't like hot weather, summer sucks. Summer would definitely be easier, though, if you lost some weight. It just would be. Your body is already heavily taxed and overwarm because of the huge amount of fat on your body. Not this woman in particular, but in general. So losing some weight would make summer easier. Now, I hate hot weather regardless. So summer always sucks. But let's take a look at the reality of the situation and not act like a victim, please.
I can't leave the house unless I'm wearing something, like, flattering.
No, because let's talk about this. Especially now that I'm in college. People often wear, like, leggings and sweatpants and sweatshirts to classes. But I don't. Not usually, anyway. But But it's because the difference is whenever a skinny girl wears leggings and sweatpants and sweatshirts, they're always going to be perceived as beautiful. They'll be perceived as having this effortless, flawless look to them. Where if I show up wearing that with the body I have, I'm going to be perceived as lazy.
It's fucking college. No one gives a fuck. All of that is in your fucking head. I'm telling you right now. There were a couple, I can think back, and the only reason why I remember this was because she came into class late. Her bus was late and she was like a half hour late to class. So I saw her come in, and there was a girl that was really heavy. She came in leggings and a sweatshirt, and no one gave a fuck. No one gives a fuck. You think that everyone is obsessed with you, and no one is. No one is obsessed. That is all your own insecurity playing in your head and perceiving that everyone's looking at you when they're not. That's on you. Stop acting like you're a victim. You have some serious insecurities that you need to address, but you're not a victim.
It just dawned on me how many people don't understand how rarely fat people actually receive evidence-based medicine from doctors. One time, I went in...
Weight loss is part of evidence-based medicine. I just want to say that. Weight loss is part of evidence-based medicine, honey.
For an ear infection, and the doctor told me to lose weight. You know...
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
What thin people get? Antibiotics.
Not necessarily. The thing is that depending on the type of ear infection it is, sometimes you don't get antibiotics, sometimes you get a steroid drops. I was having a real issue with outer ear infections at one point, and I just got, it's not an inner ear infection. It's not connected to your sinuses. Sometimes it's just out there, and if you have, I could see how if you have like an exceptional amount of excess weight, that perhaps sweat's more likely to get trapped in your ear and cause an ear infection, in which, yeah, perhaps losing some weight would help you, but chances are you still got the drops and you were just unhappy because you wanted the antibiotics, but that's not the type of ear infection you had.
One time, I found a lump, and I made an emergency appointment to get a cancer screening. It was at an OBGYN, and as soon as the doctor walked in, he didn't look at me, he didn't introduce himself, he looked at my chart and he said, "You'd have an easier time getting pregnant if you lost weight." I told him, "I'm not here for fertility treatment, I'm here for a cancer screening." And he said, "Oh, okay," and started the appointment, never said sorry. And I would need to make a 20-part series for the saga I went through last year when I needed spinal surgery for a lifelong spinal defect that had nothing to do with my weight. And this is the norm.
Okay. So, I'm not going to call BS on the doctor thinking she was there for pregnancy, although he is right, losing weight would help with fertility. Chances are, perhaps that was just the type of patient he was seeing throughout the day. He really should do better with checking what the patient is there for beforehand. I don't think that's a fat phobia thing, though. I think he was probably in the mindset of everyone that I've seen today is coming in for fertility treatments and assumed. And sometimes doctors are still people too. Sometimes they just make mistakes. When it comes to the spinal thing, if it was a lifelong, what are you, 30? And you said, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, something like that? Like, if it was truly this lifelong thing, I would have thought that they, and it was a spinal defect, I would have thought that they would have found that in childhood. Like, I don't know. And if it was something that occurred due to, like, an accident or something, I could see it's doctors treat what's most likely first. And then they go into the more rare conditions from there. It's a matter of going down the line. Given that you are heavier, and that puts more stress on the back, yes, losing weight first would probably help. And even with surgery, it would probably help with the recovery, is to lose some weight. So, this went on longer than I anticipated. I did want to say that I did lose another pound this week, so I'm super happy about that. This is getting out a little bit later than I wanted. I've just been having a hard time being motivated this weekend, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you prefer, because this is going to be like another 30-minute video. Do you like the long ones, or do you prefer like 10-minute shorter ones? Because I'm kind of trying to figure out like the best length for these. So let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.